Hello, friends. Today's interview is with Rabbi Alon Ferency. Rabbi Alon Ferency is a coach, and he helps artists be able to find their inspiration to keep moving forward and creating. Look, all of us have done art in our lives. And he, in this interview, confronts me about the fact that I don't play my drums anymore and that I should. And he challenged me to take one of my drums out and set it up and just play it. Just play it. And so if you're somebody who has art, music, something in your long past that you haven't been doing for a while, this interview is for you. Enjoy Mindful Mutiny today. Welcome to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. I'm Jeremy, and I founded Mindful Mutiny as a podcast, a community, and a commitment to live a high-frequency life. I want to help you cultivate purpose, clarity, and structure. I'm an experienced therapist, transformational coach, former executive, and psychedelic specialist. Go to mindfulmutiny.com to subscribe to my newsletter, schedule a consultation, or just to get more information about what my coaching can do for you. If you support positivity, I'd be honored to have you as a Patreon subscriber. On Patreon, there will be bonus material and a community of Mindful Mutiny fans that believe in human potential and living a high-value life. Also, check out the link in the description for my spring store with merchandise that supports the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Mindful Mutiny is sponsored by Exponential Intelligence. Exponential Intelligence teaches you how to raise your consciousness and be the most wise, evolved, and brilliant version of yourself. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. Mindful Mutiny is also sponsored by Pachamama Sacred Paths. Pachamama's mission is to facilitate individual awakening through sacred plant medicine, spiritual retreats, and ancient teachings, ultimately contributing to the collective ascension of consciousness. With over a decade of experience hosting retreats, Pachamama is distinguished by its commitment to ancient wisdom, shamanic practice, and ethical care for participants. See the link in the description of this podcast to learn more about this incredible sponsor. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the Mindful Mutiny podcast to Alon Ferency. Rabbi, thank you so much for being on Mindful Mutiny.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
Rabbi Alon Ferency is a creative consultant, counselor, and coach who champions the artist's soul. His diverse experience from serving as a synagogue rabbi to being a cross-country cyclist and a Peace Corps volunteer inform his unique approach to unlocking creative potential. Alon guides artists and artist communities through blockages and self-doubt, helping them infuse their work with authenticity and spiritual meaning. Drawing on Jewish tradition and his own artist journey, he offers practical advice and compassionate support. Beyond his professional work, Alon explores his own creativity through drumming, science fiction, and soccer. So, Alon, and I know that you have told me in the past, please don't call me Rabbi, just call me Alon.
Whatever you need to make you feel comfortable is good with me.
I really want to know, can you explain in your own words how it is that you impact the world?
Probably very little. No, I mean, it's funny because I think there's a period in a rabbi's life where you start to feel like an imposter, and then you do get over that. I used to think of this scene in the Woody Allen movie, I think it's Which Way But Loose, where there's a voiceover about the chain gang. And they say the chain gang had one hot meal a day, a bowl of steam. And I used to think I was handing people my bowl of steam. You know?
Oh, no.
I think over the course of being a rabbi, you do see lives changed. It's hard to know how much that effect is yours and how much you just witness their own change and you participate in the change. I wouldn't say it's possible to lead change for another person. Not much. You can guide and show. There's a classic story in the Jewish tradition of two strangers lost in the woods, and one says, "Oh, you can guide me out of here," and the other one says, "I only know the ways that don't work." But I do see people revitalized by their art. When I was in the pulpit, I did see people survive and thrive, perhaps because of the connection we had and the connection they had to community. Perhaps just because they were in growing spaces in their own lives. But I do see as people deepen their artistic and creative practice, they come to life in a certain way. it reinvigorates them from burnout and gives them a depth of energy that they may not have had previously. More smiling, more joy, and a more confident awareness of what is not joyful and comfort in that space too.
Well, there's a lot of what you do that is about people who are kind of stuck in their creative process. People who are trying to move on, maybe discover something new, maybe they feel like they're close to something. How did you come to be the person that helps people who are in that state?
I think by being a weirdo, um, yeah, I was always kind of a weirdo. Like, I think weird had a bad connotation, and now I've kind of embraced it. I'm just very quirky. I see things from a different lens than some people do, and I don't want to sound arrogant or special, but I've just made a lot of weird connections and strange associations in my life, and maybe that was being neurodivergent, although I've been tested more than once, so probably not. Just deep interest in the performing arts and other arts in general, an intense sense of my own creativity and enjoyment of that, even if I was never successful as my sister was with cello, or some of the musicians that I coach, or some of the theater actors that I've seen or work with, but always loved and felt delight in those moments and wanted to be around that process and connected to that process. And then the simultaneous threads of spiritual growth and engagement with public service and a deep sense of creativity and the capacity to create in all of those realms for myself and for others. It's,
So let's go back to being a weirdo. So
yeah. Oh my God. Even when you said it, I was like, well, I'm not that weird. I got kind of defensive. Maybe I
well,
haven't embraced it that much.
it's such a ubiquitous feeling among people who aren't exactly what they wish that they were, particularly when they are young. And it's this kind of
Mhm.
like a concept that gets drilled into a young person. I'm a weirdo. And so that informs the way that you kind of empathize with others because you feel like you're a little bit of an outsider too. And so then there you are as a rabbi, this traditional role that goes back thousands and thousands of years. And you're kind of going, who am I in this? But at least I can see the ones who are kind of on the side. I can see their hearts. I can understand them. And so is that part of how you became very compassionate towards people who are struggling with their vision?
I think it's a broader sense that the world doesn't make a lot of space for eccentricity. I don't think, you kind of imply that I fit neatly in that traditional role, and I never really did, certainly not within traditional institutions. It was always an awkward fit. I was in a wonderful community, but there were parts of it that were always an awkward fit. I think what I've loved about counseling and the pulpit rabbinate and chaplaincy work in hospitals is to see that no one's really happy, right? No one feels like they fit in. Everyone experiences loneliness so much of the time. And the joke I made, which is not much of a joke, is people look a lot more confident before they step into my office. And everyone projects this facade of comfort and confidence. And yet I think this idea of like social awkwardness, or what's the phrase people use, as if it's almost a pathology. Social distress is universal, and desire to please other people is nearly universal, unless maybe if you're a sociopath. And so we're always struggling with that desire to fit in. I even watch one of my sons who I think is going too far in the other direction, right? He seems very comfortable fitting in, but I think to do that, he's suppressing the part of him that loves to play cello and loved the periodic table. Maybe not too much, but I worry about that for kids.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about neurodivergence? Because I've got ADHD and I've always felt different, that I think differently than most of the people around me.
Well, it's interesting. The new studies of ADHD are starting to think it's not neurodivergent, but just part of the bell curve of neurotypical, that it is actually a healthy and useful evolutionary trait, right? That you were more likely probably to see the cougar, I guess. Look, there's a line in the new Ellen DeGeneres special where she says she thinks about that book called Be Here Now. And she says the ADHD version is, what? But what's that over there?
That's my life. That's
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah. So, and I have a wife who has it, and it's probably in the family elsewhere. And I thought I had it for a long time, and probably what I had is just anxiety disorder. I think it's great. I mean, I think if you're looking at new things and looking at the fringes and connecting the corners, that's where a depth of creativity can come from. I mean, in some way, there's no creating de novo, there's no creating out of whole cloth. But great creativity is assembling different parts. One I'm proud of, for example, was teaching Bible through the use of tabletop role playing games. Right? I love tabletop role playing games since I was a kid. I like scripture. Mash them together and see what the Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and chocolate, two great tastes that who would have thought those would be delicious together? I think that's a lot of creativity, and I think ADHD can be an asset in that kind of creating.
Well, it's definitely been an asset for me.
I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your counseling, I want to get back more into, you notice that everybody kind of struggles. Everybody feels a certain sense of not fitting in.
Oh
And
yeah.
and can you talk about the way that your counseling helps people embrace the real who they are?
I don't know. I mean, some of it is just being a fan of the person. I was kind of sad. I was reading some writing from a potential client and thinking about how hard we find it to love ourselves. And my kids are really into this song by Imagine Dragons called Demons, which is about the demons inside. And I think
Mhm.
we all imagine we have demons inside, but I've never seen them. And I've gone pretty deep with people. I think sometimes they just need to be reassured that they're normal, right? I mean, we're diverse and we're fascinating, but most people are not evil or problematic. They're just in the range of human experience, and that's great. I mean, you also have to like spicy food, right? Not everyone likes spicy food. Some people like really stable things, and I like to travel, and I like to be bombarded with new languages and new spices and smells. And I think I think probably what people experience is a kind of acceptance. And that might help them to see their own acceptance and their own need to accept themselves, because me accepting them only goes so far. But I just enjoy. I mean, that's the part I want to see more of, not the part I want to see less of, is the part, a great song comes from a place that only the singer can sing. I was telling my kids I love the song Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, but it has one terrible lyric, which is, I stay out late because I'm a singer. And I was like, yeah, we know you're a singer. You're singing right now. Like, you haven't told us anything new with that information. Go deeper than that. Right. So I think the greatest art comes from this place that is the deepest within. And the journey of art making and profound art is almost always a journey inward. I mean, I think the journey of life is mostly a journey inward and maybe a journey outward to what is greater and beyond us, which we call God.
Mm.
The linkages between what is greater and beyond, which you might call God, and what is deep and within, which you might call soul. And the connection of those two might be art, certainly beauty. I'm just riffing.
No, you talk about the artist's journey inward. And that's a journey that we all really need to be taking. And it's a beautiful journey, and it's a journey that can sometimes be a little bit painful.
If it's
And
done
you,
right,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh, it shouldn't be easy. I think we, at our own peril, imagine life will be easy. I think he was by training a psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, whose name actually has way more letters than that sounds. And he wrote a book called Flow. And the line I remember is that the universe was not created to answer our needs. Right. And once we accept that and accept that reality can be harsh and that we are, to use sort of a metaphor, broken, then the reassembling is the good work. Right? And that seeking out the gratitude for things that are true and beautiful and special and divine moments is the way you combat all that darkness.
Hmm.
But you have to assume that will be the base state, that life is a kind of reality that has hurt and pain and violence and aggression and misfortune. And that within that, there is also this other reality of gratitude and pride and delight. And, I'm not the first person to say you can choose your focus. And to me, art is about choosing beauty and magic.
Yeah. For an artist who is looking to kind of unlock that they're dealing with some sort of conceptual block on where they're going, what are the things that you suggest that they do?
Sidestep. There's I think it's Cervantes who said something to the effect of, we assert the implausible to arrive at the absurd. So the simplest example is one that I'm quite proud of, where someone was writing a screenplay that was very much connected to their own personal experience in a way that I think made it hard for the person to see themselves in it and to have the necessary perspective to write. So I said, why don't you turn it into a science fiction story? And he said, what about a Western? I'd like to do a Western. So he turned all the characters that were based in this clinic in the Pacific into a Western set in, I suppose, Nevada, probably not far from you. And you could see the characters more easily, right? You could see what mattered more easily. So I think taking those side steps of, you're a painter, why don't you write a poem, right? You're a poet, can you spend an hour each day sitting on a bench taking photographs? Or you're a photographer, but you've never done black and white, right? Take these side steps that kind of awaken your creativity and certainly lower the stakes. So you mentioned soccer, which I don't necessarily think of a creative experience, but it's a very valuable spiritual experience. And I play in variously, we're called the C League or the D League, depending on how many teams there are. So it's the lowest. And we are old and overweight. It's a co-ed team, so you're allowed to have younger women. So occasionally we'll have, 25-year-old women and 50-year-old, like sagging, scrambling men. And I heard another team captain say, the stakes have never been lower. And I think that's a great motto for art making and certainly for adult life. We always say we're not going to be professionals. That window closed when we were 19, and tomorrow we just want to go to work safely. So I think lowering the stakes is a huge part of the endeavor to help people get through the blocks. Like, what you write doesn't have to be your final draft of the novel. It could just be an idea.
Firstly, East Coaster, it is Nevada.
What did I say?
Nevada.
Oh, Nevada? Okay.
All
I
of
get
you on the East Coast
Oregon
go
right.
Nevada.
I get Oregon right. I learned that a long time ago, but it's, wait, Nevada? Is that how you say it?
It's Nevada.
Do you have to pinch your nose to get that A?
Nevada. Yeah.
Nevada. Okay. Try to keep that in mind. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it'll go out on the podcast so your listeners can learn the appropriate pronunciation. No, it's Nevada and Oregon, people. Okay, good to know.
So
still Tennessee. I'm still in Tennessee. I haven't heard of much else. There's probably an accent, but yeah. Although there is, it's not Knoxville. People here say Knoxville. I mean, I'm stretching it a little.
Oh, really?
Knoxville? But that's accent. That's definitely the accent. Knoxville, yeah. Okay. Nashville, yeah. More of a soft U. Anyway, side note. Speaking of ADHD, we've both gone on a long digression.
I heard that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to jump on that one. So what the problem, it sounds like, is that the artist gets caught up because they're not just going ahead and doing the experimental step.
Yeah.
They're getting caught up because they're kind of seeing a perfectionism in their mind of where it is that they are wanting to arrive in a perfect world. And they're not just going ahead and creating.
I would say the problem is underneath the sentence you said, which I try never to use the word perfect.
Okay.
I don't think perfect is a real thing. I'm not even sure why the word exists. I will often say, green is a real thing. I've seen green. I've seen a tree. I've never seen perfect. I don't think it exists. And I think if you can kill perfectionism, the degree of self-loathing and imposter syndrome dramatically declines. And you're right. It is about risk taking and experimentation and about giving time for self and about daydreaming. But perfectionism and the idea of a perfect gets in the way. The best is the enemy of the good, said Voltaire. And I think we get this idea that there is a perfect out there, and there never is. And if you wait for the perfect moment before you have children or get married or make art, you're never going to stop waiting. There's no perfect. I'll catch myself using the word just in casual conversation and say ideal or hopeful or desired outcome. But I try not to say the word perfect. I'm striking that word from my vocabulary.
Is that what holds a lot of people back from getting started and traveling down an artist road?
I think we start maybe as children because it's fun. And we lose that as adults, not just in art, but even our initial love of physics or mathematics or playing outside in the mud. Right? We lose that childhood sense of wonder and play at our peril. I went for a long time. As a young person, collected and occasionally played Dungeons and Dragons and other role playing games. I never really got into it as a kid. And then I needed a hobby because my wife said if I kept playing my PlayStation and Skyrim, it was going to be very dangerous for our marriage. So I got back into it. And that sense of wonder and play and storytelling returns. So I think it's mostly loss of our ability to play and to sense. I mean, people become good at an instrument because they play it a lot, and they play it a lot because they enjoy it. Right? If you had to get to 10,000 hours, so to speak, on an instrument or with the paintbrush, you can't force that. I mean, I suppose you could, but that sounds pretty miserable. And your parents are only going to force you to play violin until you're 18, and then it's up to you. Right? And if you don't love it, you're never going to get to the requisite amount of time required to be great. And the kids who become, have great bands and get signed by a record label when they're 22 went on the road when they were 18, sometimes younger, and gave their all, because it was everything to them. I mean, the stories about Springsteen's concerts that I've heard being 3+ hours long is because he doesn't feel depression when he's on stage. He's struggled with depression, as did Winston Churchill. And when he's on stage, I was told he doesn't feel depression, so he never wants to leave. I mean, that's a problem with I'm a writer. If I were to say one of my better capacities, I enjoy having written, but not the act of writing as much. So I don't know. That's hard. Whereas I always enjoyed being on stage, right, as an actor, and I like playing music. But writing is hard because I don't enjoy the act of it as much as I do the act of other arts making. I need an arts coach. Do you know any others?
I know a good coach.
Yeah.
But your exercises, how do you help people with any exercises or suggestions on how to find their playfulness, to their inventiveness? Because so much of that playfulness and inventiveness has kind of been ground out of us towards
a
little bit later in our lives, and to rediscover that fun. How do you do that?
I mean, it occurs to me that is even an issue around drug use, right? That drugs give us a permission place to play, to be goofy and silly and not ourselves, that we have somehow lost in 4th grade. I'm watching it happen to one of my nieces, where compliance is more of an issue than creativity and the fertile mind. It varies from person to person. A piece of being a coach is accountability. And I noticed the value of it once just when I did yoga at home. When I do yoga in a class in front of a teacher, you try to impress them. You want to give your all in front of the other students. And when you do yoga at home, you think, well, I'm good enough for today. I mean, some people are probably more driven in that way and self-motivated. So a part of it is, I think, for any coach and any person who is coached or mentored, if you pay for the experience, literally and figuratively, with your time and your resources, you'll be devoted to deliver. And I've even seen that, I hate to say this, but when I haven't charged people for my work, they don't show up. And when they do show up, they haven't produced. It's just unfortunate or strange or normal part of human nature. So you're just holding people to account, and not in a cruel or judgmental way, but hey, did you write the song this month? Did you do the journaling exercises we talked about? Did you write the Western you talked about? Right? I'm not giving homework. I'm just holding people accountable to projects and programs and process that they've set out. And then I look for patterns so that I can suggest it to the next person. But I've definitely had clients say or do a thing and then whisper to myself, or maybe say out loud, do you mind if I give that to someone else also? That is such a terrific way to look at things. Like one client said she signed up to a program where she does a minute of art every day. And it's really just 60 seconds, but she has to do at least 60 seconds a day. Because you can't not, there's no way not to deliver that, right? And you get stuck doing art for a minute and suddenly it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Low thresholds, low stakes, achievable goals. When I ask people, do you think you can go into the studio and record your guitar playing for 20 minutes a day? And they say, well, I'll do an hour a day. I said, how about we aim low and under promise and over deliver?
Can we talk about an artist outlet for people who are not professional artists? The role of art and creativity in a life, and the importance of incorporating that, because there's a lot of people out there who played an instrument a long time ago, who used to paint,
Right.
who are not kind of living in that right now, and they feel the void of that.
Yeah. I maybe I have a good voice for that because I've never been great at any art. And the closest I got, I'm a pretty good essayist. I could have been a pretty good actor if I had pursued it further. I'm told by my teacher it's very unlikely I will become a great drummer starting at nearly age 50. But I do enjoy it an awful lot. And I loved being a DJ and I loved filmmaking, but never went that deep. And I think I always just picked and chose because it was fun and I wanted to see what the experience was like. And I wanted to learn about other people's experiences. What's it like to play a G chord? Oh, it's much harder than I realized. I remember that with tennis, learning to play tennis. And I was like, this looked so much easier. I thought the hard part would be hitting the ball. And I never realized how much running there is. So I think I do it because of joy. The MGM logo, MGM Studios logo, I just noticed is I wrote it down, Ars Gratia Artis, which means art for art's sake. And there's a French version of that. And there is in the Jewish tradition an idea of Torah lishma, which is the idea of study for its own sake, that you learn instruction not to use it, not to become fancy, not to get a job, but just because it will fill your mind. And I was glad to find this phrase in Latin and also in French that expresses that about art. You don't have to have an Instagram site or an Etsy site or have a movie produced, right? That making a movie. Remember kids? I remember this. My sister had friends that got a camcorder and they would make little movies.
Yes.
And I was like, what are you doing? Or they would write little plays. I'd never heard of it. It seems so like not pretentious, but impressive or bold or crazy to me. And I think that impulse is in us all. And maybe I just didn't even know it could be enacted. Yeah, most people, when you could have a corporate job and paint watercolor on the weekends or have a little band. You could. It would be great. I think your job would be better off if you did. I think I could make a case to your employer that you should write poetry, right? Because your spreadsheets will be better. There's something you will contribute in a staff meeting that will be better if you have been playing bass. I can't name it, but it's a fluidity of mind that makes us better in all places.
So early in my life, I played the drum kit,
Yeah.
and I was in a heavy metal band, and I was really into progressive metal, like Dream Theater and Rush. And
I am still into Rush.
oh yes, oh
So
his
so Rush, comic, Marvel, X-Men, and D&D are, I used to call them the nerd triumvirate. Yes, please continue. Now they're all like things you can talk about in public, but you used to need to keep it to yourself.
It's true. It's true.
So
And
anyway, Dream Theater, progressive metal,
yes, and
right
so
up my alley.
I was in this very very good heavy metal band in high school. And we would put together these things that I'm actually still quite impressed by. And after high school, we just kind of broke up and went our own separate ways. And I kept playing for a few years, but I was always trying to play drums like Neil Peart. I wanted to,
Don't do that to yourself.
and I would just, I was like, why can't I sound like Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater? And I would be trying to learn note for note these 18-minute things, and I would just
They're all
end
in
up
seven,
thinking,
eight.
I
Yeah.
suck. I suck. I'm never gonna be a good drummer. But of course, I am comparing myself to Michelangelo here in the drumming world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I listen to music, and I listen to a lot of the music that I like. And I still love that really wonderful progressive metal that is absolutely nails on a chalkboard for most women. But
Yeah, it's obviously oddly not a huge romantic album to play Power
well,
Windows
not
or
so
Moving
much.
Picture. Yeah, it
But
doesn't really
Power
get the
Windows
women.
really is one of the best. Um, and I still tear up at Middletown Dreams, but when I'm listening to really good music out there, I go, that drummer, he's not Neil Peart, and he's not doing this just putting as many notes per square inch. He's playing a beat behind something that I'm tapping my foot to, and I feel the rhythm of this song. It's getting to me. I love the simplicity of it. And I don't know what his name is, but I appreciate what he's doing for me right now because I'm really hearing his beat. And
His name
that,
is Ringo.
well, there you go. There you go. There was a guy. He was not drumming like Neil Peart, and I kept comparing myself to Neil, and it made me stop drumming.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have a drum kit. It's in my garage right now in bags. Okay, and
That is how Neil kept his drums, though, in bags. He showed up to the audition with bags of drums.
and so it really is about getting into your vision of your ability. Just drum, just play, just paint, just you. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be right off the bat this thing that you are trying to put yourself at. Just be easy on yourself
Yes.
and play where you're at, paint where you're at, write where you're at, because here my drumming days are a good solid 25 years behind me at this point.
I
And
dare you, as your creativity coach, I dare you to put the kit together and start banging on it. It will bring you a lot of joy. I mean, drum
yeah,
kits, period, are totems of joy. Un who doesn't love to bang on things?
yeah,
Also, I mean, I think the thing you're hinting at is a couple of broader questions, right? Ringo was a great drummer for the Beatles, and Neil was a great drummer for Rush. But you switch places, they would have been, neither band would have been successful.
right.
And and this is true of rabbis. There were two rabbis in LA, and one of my mentors would say, if you switched places, they would both flail at those congregations. They were both great rabbis. And I had a music theory teacher in college, and I knew nothing. I was with all these kids who had been to composing camps for summers, and those kids who the musical equivalent of they had made movies in their backyard, right? And I was writing these simple things or talking to him about R&B music that I loved. And I said, but that's not so sophisticated. And he said, you can't compare a gourmet meal to an apple. right? An apple could be the most delicious food you've ever had, right? It doesn't have to be complex to be delicious, to be wonderful. And I think, I was having like a sing along with my kids while my older kids were out. And they wouldn't make fun of us. And we were singing along to Imagine Dragons and Espresso, like I mentioned, but also Let It Be. And I thought and I'm not a huge Paul fan, but this is a masterpiece of songwriting. Like I can play that part on piano and I could probably learn the drum part somewhat quickly. And it's such a great song. Right? I can't play La Villa Strangiato, and I probably never will be able to, but that doesn't make one better or worse. Last night was a Let It Be kind of night. Right? My kids can't sing along to La Villa Strangiato. That's not a sing along. I mean, I definitely can hum all the parts, but they're just different experiences, and neither is right or wrong. I think when you get older, you stop saying this sucks or this is great, but this is the right thing for me right now. This is what I'm listening to or enjoying on TV right now. And you may even look back and think, why did I like that song? And there may be things like, for me, it's mint chocolate chip ice cream and the band Rush that I've never stopped liking. If you handed me some mint chocolate chip gelato, Talenti gelato, and put on Hemispheres right now, I would probably say goodnight.
You're speaking into my soul.
I know. Rush fans are yeah. There's a thing. There's a thing with us.
People on the outside don't understand that Hemispheres is better than 2112. And
I will send you after this. I will send you a great clip from the show Billions about the band Rush. It's like my favorite. It's hysterically weird. Yeah, we don't need to. This is like inside baseball for your fans.
I know. I'm like, okay, stop. Go back into the art, Jeremy.
There's a long stretch on a Colbert episode where he talks to Joe Manganiello or Patton Oswalt about Dungeons and Dragons and the characters they had as kids. And he keeps looking at the audience like, I know this isn't for you. Sorry. There's one with who's the journalist with the short white hair? I can't.
I'm seeing him in my head.
Yeah. He's the heir to a huge fortune. Anyway, they also talk about D&D for a long time and which characters they had. And it's like, oh my God, 3 people are loving this and everyone else is glazed over. So, yeah. Rush fans have that capacity to do that to their friends.
But this kind of idea, I think we all do a little bit of comparing ourselves to things that are maybe way beyond us today. Okay. To something that is way beyond where we're going to be today. And the joy of actually taking the step to create, taking the step to enjoy today in creating something is the thing that sometimes that look at the apex of an art sometimes stops us from doing. And it stops us from doing it today and tomorrow and the next day. And you help people unlock that.
Well, the comparisons, that whole comparison is the thief of joy. Like, you have to remember Neil Peart probably played 10 hours a day his entire life. Do you want to play 10 hours a day and not do your podcast and not do anything else? Right? He had a single-minded dedication to drums and collectible cars and maybe his family. And I remember being with my best friend when I went up to visit him in college, and I was jealous of something he could do. He says, I'm not trying to be better than you at that. I'm just trying to be the best Chad I can be. Right? Or you to be the best Jeremy you can be. Yeah. There's a great story about Zusha of Hanipol, one of the rabbis of, I think, the 19th century. He says, when he gets to heaven, they don't ask you, why weren't you like Moses? They ask you, why weren't you like Zusha? Right? They're not going to ask you why. They're not going to ask you why you weren't Neil Peart. They're going to ask you the times that you weren't yourself, that you weren't your fullest self. And that goes to my joke about espresso. Telling people you're a singer isn't really telling people much about you. Right? We're listening to you sing. We know you're a good singer. But what is specific to you, and how can you be the best version of that self and illuminate the world with that? To quote the theologian Howard Thurman, to come alive in that way. That's what the world needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And the world needs more artists. And right now,
Yes.
I feel a great deal that people are people are really trying to cram themselves into the factory. And by that I mean kind of corporate America, and this you have to give up on the things that you like doing when you're younger in order to be successful and, kind of carry your family later on in your life or make a good living. And so we end up being a reasonably good director of operations than we are the artists that we kind of wanted to be when we were younger, and we feel the void of that.
I do want to be fair to people, though. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a day job. I don't think that you have to be an artist primarily. And I mean, I tell clients the only reason you try to get rid of a day job is so you can make more art. There's nothing wrong with having a day job. My best friend loved corporate consulting and he played bass on the weekends, right? We go to concerts every night after work. And it was an alignment that worked for him. I don't think it would have worked for me. And then I think what we're really shoving ourselves into is this attention and distraction and outrage economy. And that's where, if you were to ask me what art can really do right now, and on all sides of society, there is so much anger and outrage and resentment. And art, I always think, is like a tree that it builds and doesn't destroy. And there's so much of the human impulse to destroy and crave and acquire and aggression. And art can help us reach the better angels of our nature in that way. But it doesn't have to be full time. I don't want it to be, and I don't think that's what you're saying, but I'm going to sort of caricature what you're saying. I'm not asking you to be a full-time drummer, but I hope this week or soon you pick up your drum kit and reassemble it and just whack at it 15 minutes a week, because you'll find the joy, right? And I still, to go back to the Rush stuff, for the first time I played along to a Rush song and I just banged at the rhythm of Spirit of Radio. Like, there was no way I was going to play Spirit of Radio, but it's like a rhythm you can keep up with, right? You can just tap along the cymbal with it. And it was fun, right? Like, I don't expect, if I could ever in my life play one song of theirs, like New World Man or something relatively simple, that would be amazing just to play along with my heroes. But I don't ever expect to be the touring drummer for Geddy and Alex if they go back out, right? Or, if they need someone new to play in the band Tool, right? Fill in for Mike. Isn't Mike Portnoy, does he also play for Tool, or am I thinking of another guy? Danny Carey. I always get those two names confused.
I think it's Drew Carey plays for Tool.
Drew Carey, the comedian, plays for Tool.
Yeah.
Second Life. Some people are really, Fred Armisen is a pretty good drum. It's really upsetting. It's really upsetting when people are really good at several kinds of arts. I'm not okay with them. There's an actor, Kayvon Novak, who plays Nandor on What We Do in the Shadows. And he's also like model good looking in real life. And I think that's just, I don't accept. I do not accept this. That you can be a stand-up comedian who's also an incredible singer. That's not fair. It's not fair. Donald Glover comes to mind.
I think most of us are trying to figure out the thing that we're really good at.
Yeah. And again, but the thing that you're really good at is being Jeremy, right? Like, that's the best thing that you can be good at. And at the end of your life, all that will have mattered. Were you the best version of yourself? And again, not the perfect version, but just an improving version of yourself.
Yeah. Now,
also, let me just back up.
Yeah.
This is an interesting thought. I just crossed my mind. Like, Neil had a difficult life. And one of my first clients was a game designer and would play games on live, right, on Twitch. And I thought, that must be the greatest life ever, until I met him. And I realized he did that 12 hours a week, and the other some 30 hours a week were spent hustling and answering emails and dealing with technical problems, right? Like, the ideal life and the ideal job is not always so ideal. Neil hated public attention, right? He did not want to engage with the public. Not that he was a misanthrope. He just didn't like being famous. Even these sort of ideal lives that we imagine are full of struggle of their own. I think that's ultimately what I try to teach people. And it kind of is a piece of Proverbs and Plato and a Jewish philosopher, Philo. Everyone has their struggle. The heart knows its own bitterness, and everyone is fighting a brave battle. But you should make art. You should do something creative to soothe that.
Where do you want to go with all of this? Where are you going and what are you trying to create?
Fabulous wealth. I was told that artists are extremely wealthy and they love to give their money away because they're just they're, no.
Yeah.
That was, if that's not clear, that doesn't convey on a podcast, that is an unfortunate mistake. No. What am I trying to create? I don't know, more beauty in the world, I guess, in the most simple form. To be, for my own selfish reasons, to be around the creation of beauty. To have an artist send me the demo before anyone but their wife has heard it. To be the first person to see the sketches, to hear the first chapter of a new children's book. Like, oh, it fills me with such joy and honor and sense of the sacred. Let's start with the selfish reasons. It's re-informing the way I understand God and the universe and my own faith. In a broader sense, I want to be a part of beauty. And in a societal sense, I think the world needs more truth and beauty, and not facts and history, but deep truth. I think the world needs more people who have come alive, whether even if what their art helps them to come alive to do is to start their own business or to make a great spreadsheet. And I think the world needs to recognize the inherent value of art and creativity. And it's not, I think Maslow's hierarchy of needs is wrong. I understand that we need food and shelter, but I don't think art is that much farther along the process. People made art in caves. It's not a later development of humankind or a later need. It is an essential need. And we need to stop thinking that art is frivolous or extra, or that artists have it easy.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm just really kind of taking that in because your message here. There's a lot of different kinds of coaches. I help people find themselves and strategize for what they want next in their lives. You help people really embrace the potential inside them and to just start taking those steps to how long has it been since you had the oil paints out? How
Right.
long has it been since you touched a fan brush? How long has it been since you actually tuned your snare drum? These very simple things. I love the sound of my 1967 bronze Ludwig snare drum. I love that drum. And when it is tuned right, I feel like a real musician.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you this week go set up just the snare drum and tune it? How
Okay.
long would that take you? Like,
Take
could you do
me,
that in 20 minutes?
I can do that in 20 minutes. I'm
Can
going to
you
send
just
that to
do
you.
that this week?
Yeah.
Just set up your snare drum and tune it.
Okay.
Nothing else. Setting that would be amazing. I'd love to hear you just do a couple paradiddles and send me a recording.
Okay. I'm going to do that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
kind of moments I get where people are like, oh, my snare drum.
Yeah.
Like there's something about hearing you say that just makes me nearly cry. Like there's this piece of us that's so important and so neglected.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when I see it, I feel my youth through that drum.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the day that I found it and I played it for the first time and I went, this is the one. This vintage drum is the one. Yeah.
Neil found his in a yard sale, I think. It wasn't even a fancy drum. His favorite snare was a piece of crap he found somewhere.
Yeah. Well, this is the point in the podcast where I tell you what I love about you.
Oh,
And what I love
this
about
is so
you,
sweet.
well, this is part of what I do. What I love about you is your total in the moment sincerity. You're total tracking with what is going on right now. And I'll tell you, my experience in this interview has been different than other interviews because I'm always thinking about what you're saying and trying to push forward, but you're always very much in the moment. And you've challenged me to be in the moment in this interview and not always thinking ahead. And I had to come to your rhythm in this interview rather than me pulling you along with me. And that's something that is very grounding that you do. And you're probably so accustomed to doing it that you don't even know when you're doing it. And that level of just calm down, let's have a conversation here, let's be here now. That's something that's so grounding. It's so at the beginning a little bit destabilizing. And then when you put yourself into it, you're much more in a calm space. There's no competition. There's no there's no pretense. And so I love that about you, that you bring people into the moment and you go, why are you making this more complicated than it needs to be? Why are you making everything more complicated than it needs to be? Why are you looking at Neil Peart and going, if I can't be Neil Peart, then I can't play a snare drum? And that's just not the way to look at an art. It's not the way to look at a craft. It's not the way to look at woodwork. It's not the way to look at playing a violin.
Not the way to look at life either.
It's not.
There are a lot of people who are better rabbis at certain things than me. A lot of people was like a better sermon giver. I mean, I'm pretty good at sermons, or could write a better newsletter article, or maybe could counsel a certain kind of person better, but they couldn't do the sum of what I do.
Yeah.
I think also, and it's very delightful and very kind what you just said. I don't want to ignore that, because I get the sense people like me and I still don't understand why. And it was nice to hear that. Like, why would anyone want to hear be coached by me? I don't know that I have anything to bring, but I get that must be part of it. This conversation was easy also because of you. And I hope you didn't feel like I seized the reins in an inappropriate way, which I don't think is what you're saying. But it was a delightful conversation. And I don't, and it certainly helps that we're both Rush fans. That doesn't make it, that definitely made it easy. And geek out together. But I don't know, I'm kind of sad. I think about, like, I'm teaching a class tonight, and I had an intake form from all the artists, and there was so much sad. Like, one of the, why don't you create wasn't exactly the question, but was hinted at. And so much of it is imposter syndrome and lack of self-love and not giving oneself the time or the space or the self-belief. Can I curse?
Yes.
I mean, who gives a fuck? Like, I'm never going to be a great drummer. I would love to be able to play in a shitty band. Would be my dreams, to play in like some lousy band where we do Wilson Pickett covers poorly. But it's fun, and there's enough misery. I mean, when you talk about that snare drum, it's like, I had a client the other day who talked about going to a place not far from, it was in Colorado actually, where you go to like this industrial park by invitation, or you have to make an appointment, and they have hundreds of guitars, and the cheapest one is like $5,000. And he played this $5,500 acoustic guitar, and his wife was watching him like there was magic in the room, right? And the way you talked about your snare, like, that's, I don't know what it is that they do, these instruments and paintbrushes and, staff paper and draft paper, like what they do to us. But thank God they're these little gifts from heaven.
My little snare drum gift from heaven is number 178 out of 500.
It's like a collectible?
Oh, yes.
Wow. And it's in a bag right now?
Oh, it's in my garage in one of the boxes, one of those boxes with the foam inside.
I hope eventually you will keep it in your office. You can see I keep a couple of instruments. They're mostly decorative. I rarely get to play them. The drum kit's downstairs.
Yeah.
I keep it, put it somewhere where your next guest can see it in the frame.
I will. Tell everybody how that they can get a hold of you.
eclecticcleric.com, which I thought was very catchy, but is apparently very hard to spell. Eclectic as in unusual, cleric as in the Dungeons and Dragons class that encompasses priests and rabbis. Eclecticcleric.com. You can find me on almost all social media at Eclectic Cleric, but your best bet is rabbi at eclecticcleric.com for email.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And naming things is very, very difficult.
Well, so when I got to Knoxville, someone did an article about me called The Eclectic Cleric, and I was like, that is exactly who I am. And I'm getting that for every social media and every website I can. And then I realized when I say it to people, they're like, how many C's are there? It's much harder to spell than I thought. I thought it was very catchy, but it is also hard to spell.
It is.
Easy to, so yeah. So what are you going to do? Too late now.
Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you, Jeremy. This is great. It's really, really going to put me in a good mood all day. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. And remember, in a lifetime, there's more decisions than anybody can count. Living the highest form of yourself is the most rewarding thing that you can do. Make incredible, positive, risky, and bold decisions to be the highest version of you. Now go be something great.